So I did this about a fortnight ago, which team needs to win more, and it did pretty good numbers. You guys seem to enjoy it, and I thought to myself, I just think it's a good way to preview footy, looking not just at this could happen, here's my tip, move on, as so many of these preview style podcasts especially can kind of become talking about who is more desperate for a win on paper or the worst set of consequences to come from a loss. It just keeps percolating here. So let's go through all 9 games of round 17 and decide who needs a win more, and I'll give you my tips at the end. Let's go. The Pies and the Cats, and there's absolutely no doubt in my mind that Collingwood need a win more than the Cats do in this one. The vibe is off at the Pies. In my How Is Every Club's vibe video, I had the Pies as off. I tipped them to get out of that funk against the Bombers, and at quarter time I was smoking cigars. I don't smoke, but I was feeling good, feeling great, feeling grand. And then they shit the bed. Now, Essendon fans, don't get upset. You were enormous, fantastic, the better team overall. But we're not talking about you yet, so don't panic. But the Pies, they need this. They need this. And for the Cats, you kind of think of it 7-0. They had all the expectation in the world. Then they started losing. Then they had none. And then they beat the Bombers. And we all went, but the Bombers haven't beaten anyone yet. Because that was, of course, before the Collingwood game. And then the Cats beat the Hawks, and everyone went, okay. And now we kind of go, do we even expect anything of them at this point? It's a really weird thing that we've got with the Cats at the moment. Now, if you're a Geelong fan, you probably don't mind that. This is the first time in a while you're in good form. You know, you have won your last 2 games by a combined 96 points. It's pretty damn handy. 16 goals. But if Geelong lose this, I feel like the footy public, from a majority standpoint, won't really care. Meanwhile, if Collingwood lose this game, they are getting the dissection on Monday. It would take something catastrophic from someone else to not get that discussion. So, the Pies, my God, they need to win this. Hawthorn versus Freo, and your expectations of these two teams in the run home, I think, will determine how you think about this game. If you expect Freo to really be up there, make top 4, and you're a buyer of their football club, of which I kind of am, you would say them, which I will. But as a Hawthorn fan that wants us to make finals, even though we're 13th with a horrible percentage, even though the last 2 months have been extraordinary, you think, well, if the Hawks are going to get there, they need to win this game. I still think Freo need to win more. They're the better side. Now, what's working for the Hawks is obviously location. Tassie, tick, tick, tick. They've had their poor game. Can they rebound? They should be okay. Coming back from Perth is going to be pretty okay for the Dockers. But Hawthorn last week, it's just Geelong that they're coming from, so it is what it is. Freo were really under no pressure at all last week, but if they want to stick around, they're only 2 points off Carlton that have got a tough matchup against the Bulldogs in this round. But if Freo, again, want to stay close to second and entrenched in that top 4, they need to win. In terms of expectations, I'm expecting more from the Dockers than the Hawks, so I think the Dockers need to win more, but will I tip them? Sydney play North, and I just fully expect Sydney to just get the job done here. They do need to win more. Just get out of this little funk. Now, they have lost 3 games by a combined, 8 points? So, life's not that bad, all right, for the Swans. But get on the winners list. It's 1st v 17th. Just get the job done. Get Errol in form. Heaney, if he plays, he probably will. This is before the appeals process, so who knows. But he probably will get off and probably should, in my opinion. But North, they're playing really well. The Clarko's style is working really well for North at the moment. Sucks that Georgie Wardlaw's not out there. Love watching him play, but Tom Powell was really good last week. North don't need to win any more games from here on out. I hope they do, and fans should hope they do as well. But in terms of need to win, the top of the table team, at home, against a poorer side, after losing in the last fortnight, yeah, they need to get back on the winners list. Bulldogs v Carlton, and this is a coin flip in terms of who needs to win more. And this is quite result dependent. If Hawthorn beat Freo, then the need for Carlton to win gets a little bit lesser. A little bit lesser. Whereas the Bulldogs, you could argue, no matter what, need to have a win, because after their poor performance last week against Port Adelaide, they need to get back on the winners list. So there is no real incorrect answer here. I am going to go with the Bulldogs though, semi-passionately, because I don't believe results should have a massive factor in your need to win or not. If they lose this game by a closest margin, then they're probably just one of those, they have a really good list, they're not going to play finals, they need to retool, re-kit and go for next year and see what happens. Whereas if Carlton lose this, I feel like the fallout is, well, are they really a contender? There's enough time to rebound from there. The Bulldogs are going to be in big trouble, I reckon, if they drop this game, which has them ahead of Carlton for mine in the who needs to win. And Bulldogs at Marvel would generally be the team you tip, but Carlton rebounding off a loss, are they mature enough to handle it? It's the Dogs for mine. And even as I've discussed this, I think the gap is getting larger and larger, so pretty easily the Dogs for me. Adelaide, St Kilda, the answer is obvious here. It's Adelaide. Absolutely, it is Adelaide. Isaac Rankin, unlikely to play, but this is pre his tribunal, so we'll see how that goes. But the Saints, they won last week against the Swans. They don't need to win this. St Kilda are higher than Adelaide on the ladder. That's how disappointing these two teams have been, but Adelaide especially, holy shit. I hope we get to see Billy Dowling back in the centre bounces. I hope we get to see Zach Taylor play 70 or more minutes. Would be pretty handy to have because he looks a really composed player. Shout out to Smitty, the original subscriber to Daz Talks Footy, who loved Zach coming out of his draft season. But if Adelaide lose this, how does Matty Nicks survive? And then you look at what the other South Australian team has put up with for 12 years and you go, oh yeah, they keep them around. And then you look at how the West Australian treated Adam Simpson and you go, maybe not sacking a coach in a two-team town could be the way to go. So, Adelaide, dodge all of that and win. Melbourne, Essendon, I would argue both teams need to win this. I really would, but I am putting Melbourne in this category. I am putting it out there right now. Melbourne lose this, season's over. Even if they respond and make the 8, it's not going to make a shred of difference. You guys know where I stand on the Ds. I am firmly in they need to rebuild camp and quickly. How they do that, I don't have the time nor the proper list research to give you even a small snapshot, because I actually do like to research before I record, unlike some people in AFL media that just say shit without thought. But alas, I move on. The Bombers need to win to stay in touch with the top 4. I understand that. They're 4th at the moment, I believe. Yeah, because Freo are 3rd, so that makes sense. And they need to win. This is not a case of 100 Melbourne, 0 Essendon. To me, this is genuinely 51-49. I still think Essendon can be the best version of themselves if they lose this game. I don't think Melbourne can, therefore, I'm putting Melbourne ahead of them in this bracket. More difficult game than you think to tip this one, because Essendon at their best are absolutely going to win this game, but Melbourne, can they somewhat fight back? They've had 1 or 2 good performances without Petrarca, but with Gawn out, and they need to win, becomes really difficult. But they need to find a way if they want to make something out of 2024, because it's been a pretty calamitous shit show outside of a few half-decent performances. Gold Coast, Port Adelaide. Port beat everyone in the bottom 10, so they say, but Gold Coast don't lose at home. Who needs to win this more? Well, believe it or not, it's just actually down to the coach. It's dimmer. It's Gold Coast need to win this more than Port Adelaide do, in my opinion. Yes, the fallout for Port Adelaide is going to be massive from the media, from this, for that, especially if Gold Coast do win by a considerable margin. But considering what Dimmer said at the end of the Gold Coast game, in that they needed to grow the fuck up, and I don't apologise for swearing, unlike Dimmer did and shouldn't have apologised for, because why would we want them to show passion and emotion? Ridiculous. Anyway, yes, Port need to win. This is 51-49 to me. But in terms of what Gold Coast want to achieve, the seriousness they need to have in this competition, Yeah, Ken's been there for 12 years. He can handle a loss. Probably. But in terms of Gold Coast having relevancy in what they want to achieve, in trying to chase finals, they lose to North Melbourne on the road and then go back home and lose as well. They're no different. The only Gold Coast associated person that would be happy if they lost is probably Stewie Dew. And that's kind of dickish from me, to be perfectly honest. But unless this game is a draw, and even if it is, no one's going to be happy, but I can't see this having a fantastic outcome for whoever loses this game at all. I just think Gold Coast need it more to stay in touch with those teams that are pretty much from 5th to 13th at this point, and they sit 12th, so yeah, they need it. Richmond, GWS. Richmond need to have another win, you'd think, under Adam Uze. Yes, they're on the bottom of the ladder, but this draft up the top is you're still going to have really, really good kids, and it's really dependent on what you're looking for. I'm pretty sure Richmond are going to want Jagger Smith no matter what at this point in time, at the time of recording. That can obviously change as more of the under-18 season evolves and all those kinds of things. And Josh Smiley did have 26 and a goal last week in the under-18s. But the Giants, they beat the Blues, come to Melbourne, put Richmond away, get yourselves back into the fold of this season and get ready to attack the last month and a half and finals with a vigour. It's as simple as that. Just win. Tom Green, feast on that midfield. Stephen Coniglio, because Kelly's injured. Stephen Coniglio, feast on that midfield. Brent Daniels, keep up your great form. That backline can solidify itself. Go in there, win the game. Don't let Shea Bolton have 25 and kick 6 on you. And go back to Sydney with the 4 points. GWS need to win this game. West Coast, Brisbane. Now, you might think to yourself, West Coast need to have a win to really get this week behind them. Brisbane need to win this game. Do not lose to West Coast on the road after they've sacked Adam Simpson. Don't become part of that statistic. Now, yes, in recent times, caretaker coaches have had some success in their first games. And fingers crossed Jared Schofield goes well in this and puts himself forward for jobs in the future. I don't think he's going to be West Coast's next coach, but he can obviously stay on the staff and those kinds of things. But Brisbane, go in there, get the job done, and get the fuck out of WA is the advice that I would give you. Chris Fagan, this is exactly the kind of game you could drop. Do not take it lightheartedly. You have 50,000 people in that stadium that need a West Coast win. This has got danger game written all over it. Brisbane need to win this game to not only continue their ascent up the ladder as they are in the top 8, they can't drop this. They simply cannot. So if I had to narrow it down to 3, which 3 teams need to have a win more than any other going into this week? Well, forgive me for some Vic bias, but for me, Collingwood, the Bulldogs, and Melbourne are my top 3. And Brisbane are probably stiff to miss, to be perfectly honest. GWS as well. However, let's go to the tips. Now, at the time of recording, we are still a decent chunk of time away from the start of the round, but at this point in time, they are my tips, as you can see on the screen. Whether you agree or disagree, comment below, let me know. What do you think of the video? Comment below, let me know. Like the video if you like the video. Subscribe to join the Daz Talks Footy family. We are charging towards the next milestone, that being 3,500 subscribers. Need your help to do so, so go ahead and do that. Enjoy your weekend, you absolute legends. I'm going to try and do more YouTube shorts, so keep an eye out for those if you watch YouTube shorts. My Adam Simpson one I was really happy with. Found a new way to record things, and I think it turned out pretty well for a 1-minute video. So check that out if you haven't already. Look after yourselves. Stay safe, I should say. Stay warm, because here in Victoria, it is freeze your nuts off weather. Enjoy your weekend, guys. I'll see you soon.